Well, I'm joined today by MIGUNA, who is the General of the National Resistance Movement. According to your Twitter profile, you call yourself a freedom fighter, a writer, barrister, and advocate. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I want to start by asking you about your reaction to the revelations that Cambridge Analytica worked for Jubilee Party in the last election.
I was not particularly shocked or surprised because most Kenyans who are aware knew that Cambridge Analytica was working for Jubilee even in the 2013 elections. And what I think we were surprised about was the extent to which they did what they did, which was an egregious manipulation of Kenyans, distortion of facts, historical and current facts, and manipulation of Kenyans in terms of their opinion on the issues that affected them, on issues of ethnicity, on issues of electoral justice, on issues of how they perceived the candidates, UHURU Kenyatta vis-a-vis RAILA Odinga, and ultimately shocked that they committed this fraud openly without any feeling of guilt. They were boasting about it.
Let me just say that they have said that they didn't do anything wrong, and actually what they did was by the book.
Well, I've watched the clips by the BBC, and I think the clips speak for themselves. Was it Nix, the CEO of Cambridge Analytica? He was boasting openly about what they did, how they manipulated everybody, and how they invaded Facebook and pushed negative retrogressive agenda, depicting, for example, RAILA Odinga as violent, NASA supporters, particularly Luos, as violent, and driving that to scare away the majority of voters from voting for RAILA Odinga. I mean, they confessed to this.
What's your reaction? I mean, NASA has obviously commented on this, and we have covered that NASA is calling for investigations. But what's your reaction to how they basically responding to this news?
Well, NASA has not responded robustly as I would have expected them to, because they were the victims, the first victims of this crime. It is a crime. But really, the main victim is the ordinary Kenyan. The Kenyan that relied on information that they believed were objective, but which were manipulated and distorted, lies that were elevated to the position of truth, and which they relied on in voting. And they did this twice. They did this in 2013 and they did this in 2017. And they boasted that they've been doing this all over the world, which means that what we have as regimes or governments or administrations in many parts of the world are not a popular expression of the people's will. That undermines democracy. That undermines the rule of law. That undermines the principle of constitutionalism, which I stand for.
Now, you say NASA did not respond robustly.
Yes.
What, in your view, would be the best way for them to respond?
NASA should have called for the resignation of the government immediately. The government does not reflect the will of the people. UHURU Kenyatta and William Ruto are in office illegitimately. Number one, because they didn't win the election. But number two, because Cambridge Analytica helped them get numbers that they would otherwise not have gotten.
But there are two things here. There is the way Cambridge Analytica used or rather worked for the Jubilee government and what they did. But then there was the actual voting, because ultimately it's the actual voting that determined who was president, who became president. So what you're calling for exactly is that you're saying that because of their tactics were wrong, therefore the result in essence should be nullified, which should not be the case.
But Mr. Olewe, if I manipulate you into signing a contract that you otherwise would not have signed, then you signing is not free will.
Yeah, but
you should do this freely. No. But so in terms of free will, that's what free will is. In a democracy, people must make informed decisions based on verified facts. And in this case, people were misled. That's number one. So in terms of morality and legality, these were illegal and immoral tactics. Two, Uhuru Kenyatta actually did not win. We know that the August 8th declaration, after the August 8th election, the declaration was nullified by the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court found that there were so many illegalities and irregularities that that basically rendered those elections nugatory. In other words, he was not elected popularly by the people. Then the Supreme Court said that they should open up the Kimskits and the servers to determine who had won. That was never done. When the so-called repeat elections happened in October, the IBC, the electoral body, was in contempt of the court order. They shouldn't have been allowed to run the October 26th exercise, which was simply a coronation exercise.
I want to, because we have a little bit more that I want us to cover in this during the few minutes we have. You have called the recent meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga a betrayal. Why do you think it's bad for these two leaders to be working together?
Well, number one, no, that's not exactly what I said. I did not say the meeting is a betrayal. They are free to meet. It is what they say they meet about, what they purport to discuss, what they purport to agree on, which is a betrayal. Number one, you cannot resolve issues of electoral justice through a meeting between two people as friends. They shake hands, they don't discuss the issues that revolve around electoral justice. They don't talk about the terrible, shooting and murder of hundreds of supporters of NASA by the police. They don't talk about the murder of Chris Msando, who was the director of ICT at the IBC. They don't talk about the maimings. They don't talk about the raping of women. They don't talk about the fact that the election was completely fraudulent. They don't talk about the structure of government. They don't talk about the issues that affect the average Kenyan. Social justice issues. So when you have a handshake which is transformed into a mythical thing, as the newspapers and the media have done, it's a betrayal of the cause for which Raila Odinga rejected the so-called Uhuru Kenyatta's election. So did Uhuru Kenyatta become legitimate through a handshake? No, he didn't. Did the people, the 400 people that were murdered in cold blood, did they come back to life? No, they didn't. Did anybody take accountability for that? No. Did they talk about them? No. So that's a betrayal. Okay,
let me just take you back to, there's a clip that has been shared on social media, and that is of you appearing in one of Kenya TV stations. And you were saying that the meeting between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta should only happen after Raila Odinga is sworn in as the people's president.
That was taken completely out of context. I will explain. So you can play.
So my question exactly is that because I watched the clip and that...
Are you going to play it?
we not at the moment, but
okay,
the clip is out there. So I just want to put it out to you that if that is what you said...
That's not what I said. So I can explain what I said.
What did you say then?
Because I don't like people speaking for me, because I'm very capable of speaking for myself. What I said is this, and I will repeat it. Uhuru Kenyatta is not legitimately elected as president of Kenya. He was not, and he's not legitimate now. We needed to put in place action plan for removing him so that we could have a free, fair, and verifiable election, credible elections. And I said that to get there, we needed to swear Raila in so that if there were going to be any discussions between the two sides regarding the issues that I already explained, the discussion would be structured. It would be over the substantive issues that affect Kenyans, and it would go to addressing issues pertaining to electoral justice. I did not say that a handshake constituted a structured discussion.
But the handshake was not, according to my reading, the handshake was not the conclusion of the engagement between these two leaders.
That is not how discussions happen. In a democracy, this is what happens. Raila Odinga represents and represented a political coalition called NASA. So you needed to engage NASA, not as a person, but as a leader of an organization.
So Raila Odinga did not consult
you? He did not consult NASA. No. Ms. Olewe, please listen to me. Number one, he did not consult NASA as an institution. Secondly, he did not consult people like me and others that represented various interests and issues. Three, he did not consult Kenyans that voted for him and the victims of the post-election violence. He did not do a transparent and public participation that is required in the Constitution. He went there personally as Raila Odinga, and when he went there, he was accompanied by his daughter, not anybody representing public interest. And he was also there with his personal lawyer, a private person that does not represent public interest. So it was a private, personal meeting between two people.
Granted, but it was private, as you say.
Yes.
But it had nationwide implications. And NASA as a coalition looks like has rallied behind Raila Odinga.
No, they did not. NASA has not.
Well, the MPs, the members of parliament.
No, those are ODM MPs.
The members of parliament, the members of parliament, whether allied to ODM, have actually supported this.
That is incorrect.
Raila has been to Kisumu. He's stronghold in Western Kenya and has made an appeal to his supporters to back his, basically his plan with reconciling with Mr. Kenyatta. So there is some support.
Mr. Lewe, you are completely misrepresenting facts. Number one, all right? NASA has not endorsed what Raila Odinga did. They have not. As an institution, they have not. Raila Odinga is supposed to be one of the principals, according to himself. And the three principals were not with him and have not endorsed what he did. Number two, the MPs of the three political parties in NASA, other than ODM, have not endorsed what he did. And Raila Odinga has only visited Kisumu and Ahero, where I come from. He has not visited all over the Republic of Kenya. And even the visits to Kisumu and Ahero, the people did not endorse what he did. And that is not how you do public participation. You don't sign a deal, then you go back to look for endorsement. You first of all consult with your supporters, get buy-in, you get the issues right, the people send you there to negotiate on their behalf, then you can say you represent the people. You cannot do it backwards. He's climbing a tree from the top, coming down. He has to climb the tree from the bottom.
So do you still recognize Raila Odinga as the people's president?
That is irrelevant. The point is, I swore Raila in as the people's president. That has not changed. That's a fact. But the point is also that if Raila Odinga is not God. If today Raila Odinga decides to do something that is contrary to the public interest, as someone who believes in the integrity, I will criticize it. And that's exactly what I have done. And I've done it to him in person. I've expressed these feelings and my thoughts to him directly in person.
So you have spoken to him?
I have communicated with him after, and I have told him exactly what I am telling you.
President Uhuru Kenyatta,
yes, of course.
And what did you tell Raila Odinga?
I told him exactly what I'm telling you. Exactly what I'm telling you. That's what I've told him.
I want to explore. You've just said that the coalition NASA does not support Raila Odinga. I'm curious whether let's just explore what NASA is, because at the moment you have a situation.
I'm not a member of NASA.
So, but the national resistance movement
is not part of NASA.
That you represent
is not part of NASA.
It's not.
So I do not want to get into.
It's a separate entity.
Yes, I do not want to get into details of discussing NASA because I'm not a NASA leader. I'm not a NASA member. I'm not a member of ODM. I'm not a member of ANC. I'm not a member of Ford Kenya. I'm not a member of WIPA, parties that form NASA.
So the national resistance movement that you represent
is a movement.
It's a movement, like you're saying, yes. And has no, according to what you're telling me, has no link at all with the opposition.
Right now, no link at all.
But it had some foundation.
It had links because we were dealing with similar issues of electoral justice, and we were speaking from the same page. Now that they have done deals with Uhuru Kenyatta, we have nothing to do with them.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
No, you're currently on what you call a global mobilization and recruitment tour.
Correct.
So in fact, you're here in the UK as part of this tour.
Correct.
What are people telling you about this meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga?
Good question. People are disgusted. People are disappointed. People are calling it a betrayal. People do not understand why 400 people died for you to wake up one day and then embrace the person who killed them. The person has not acknowledged the fact that he's responsible for these deaths. He's not acknowledged nor apologized for the maimings and the raping and the destruction that took place after his illegitimate assumption of power. So what we are saying is this: you cannot hide that or push that under the carpet. You can't. Whether you are Raila Odinga or you are anybody else. Raila Odinga or anybody else does not own Kenyans. Nobody owns Kenyans. Kenya is a sovereign state, and sovereignty vests in the people. So there is nobody, there is no one person that can arrogate himself or herself power over Kenyans. And these two people met privately as two people. They have not disclosed to what exactly they discussed. They have not appointed a mediator, a neutral, that would even protect public interests. We don't know who else would be participating in this so-called discussion. And we are saying, no, sir. We are not going to go along with this egregious betrayal of the aspirations of Kenyans. This is not democratic, and it is not constitutional.
But aren't you in the minority, MIGUNA? Because
no, I can't be in the minority. When you asked me, what are people telling me? I'm the one who is meeting them. I'm the one reporting to you. They have not contradicted me. You would have to interview them and come back with the results, scientific, that they are not supporting what I'm saying.
But if you just look at the reaction
from where?
In Kenya, the country's reaction to the meeting of the opposition leader Raila Odinga. And
have you done a scientific survey of the people? You have not.
But you see, you've
not done that.
Pretty much say the same thing for you, because you have just been speaking to people.
I've been meeting with people. No, I can only report to the people that I've been meeting with.
Yeah, but these people are not in Kenya.
No. They are Kenyans. They are Kenyans. They are Kenyans. At least I've had a structured, organized town hall meetings with Kenyans. You are reporting from nothing. You have not done a scientific study. There is no sampling. You can't tell me, I've interviewed 1,000 people, and these 1,000 people, 70% of them represents this view. This is a casual way of assessing people's opinion. What I can tell you, go to Facebook, go to Twitter, go to newspaper websites, look at the comments. Then come back and tell me if that is not the majority. Now, how else do we gauge people's opinion? This is one way of gauging it. This is unscientific, but it reflects the disgust the people have. I'll tell you another thing. I come from Nyanza like Raila Odinga. Nyanza people are very exuberant. If they support something, they would be demonstrating supporting it. Have you seen demonstrations? No demonstrations, no expression of joy. So what I can tell you is that the overwhelming majority of people that support Raila Odinga do not support this silly thing that he calls a handshake. It is silly because it has no substance.
So you're telling me that the resistance movement that you lead still has influence and it's relevant, even as you plan to.
How else would I be traveling around the world? You know, they're paying my air tickets. They're booking my hotel rooms. They're organizing the meetings. The ordinary people. I don't have the money to do that. That tells you the resistance movement is very powerful and is very organized, no matter what you think. Secondly, why would they not want me back in Kenya if the resistance movement was weak? If it was weak, they would welcome me back in Kenya. But no, they wouldn't. In fact, yesterday, they even communicated to the British authorities to stop me at Heathrow International Airport. And they actually did. And the special branch came to me and gave me a document which they called Schedule 7, Terrorism Act 2000, 1930 to 1940, telling me that the Kenyan authorities told them I'm a terrorist and that I'm traveling all over the world to plan terrorist activities. You are not talking to a terrorist. You are talking to a human rights activist. You are talking to a leader who heads the NRM movement Kenya. You are talking to someone who is critical of the egregious abrogation of the Constitution and the perversion of the democratic process. You are talking to someone who is opposed strongly to despotism. That's who I am.
Now, let's go back where all this started for you, and especially after the swearing in of Raila Odinga as the people's president. Now, you were held by the police for a few days, and then you were deported to Canada after the Kenyan government stripped you off of the Kenyan citizenship. Now, a court has subsequently ruled that the Kenyan government should issue you with your passport and facilitate your return to Kenya. So my question to you is that, have you got your Kenyan passport back? And when are you returning to Kenya?
First of all, several corrections. I was abducted from my home. My home was destroyed. I was detained in Communicado for 5 days in violation of 7 court orders, not one. 7 court orders. Then I was forcefully removed from the Republic of Kenya and taken to Canada. That was not a deportation, because a deportation is a legal process. There was no notice, there was no opportunity to be able to dispute what they had done, there was no court process, and there was no deportation order. It was an arbitrary, whimsical, dictatorial fiat by a despotic regime. That's what they did. Now, the court has also ordered them to return my passport. The court revoked the decisions they made. So I'm still a Kenyan citizen. You can't take that away from me. And the court told them that. But they have not returned my passport. They were told to return a valid passport to court within 7 days of the court order. They returned a destroyed passport. They went and punched holes in my passport and then took it to court. This is the kind of regime we are talking about. No respect for the rule of law, no respect for court orders, a complete violation of all the principles of democracy that we can speak of.
So have they given you your passport back? Have they issued you with a new passport?
I've told you they have not.
They haven't?
Yeah.
And so you're using a Canadian passport?
I am.
And when do you return to Kenya?
On the 26th, on Monday.
On Monday.
Yes.
So the other thing as well is that the Kenyan press has quoted you saying that you're planning to lead the mother of all struggles.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means the mother of all struggles. That's English.
Can you break it down to us? What will you actually do?
Struggle.
What's your
You know what a struggle is?
Yeah, but
we are involved in a struggle.
What's your mission? What's your aims? What's the plan?
My aim is to remove Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto from their positions of authority because they are occupying them illegitimately. And we will do it legally, we'll do it popularly, the people of Kenya will do that. It's allowed in the Constitution.
The other thing about your travels, your lawyer, you've just said that you travel right now as you meet the National Resistance Movement supporters, that your ticket is basically being funded by the supporters.
Yes.
But your lawyer had also, according to a newspaper report, had asked the government to facilitate your flight to
It's not my
Kenya.
lawyer. It's the court that ordered. The court did not request the government.
But
the court ordered that because my removal was illegal, the government has a duty to return me at public cost It's not their money. They bought me a ticket that I did not request, and they took me to Canada against my will. Now the court said, reverse that process. You must bring him back. Of course, they have not done that. But that is a violation of my rights, and it's in violation of the court order. So it's not a request from my lawyer. My lawyer simply served them with the court order and told them comply.
So have they...
they have not complied.
They haven't complied.
They have not complied. But I have a ticket.
Okay.
I have a ticket.
All right. I think we'll end it there, Mr. MIGUNA. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Yes.